Brandon Thurston from Wrestlenomics is up next, and we're going to follow Brandon with John Pollock from Post Wrestling.
Delivering on the returns, increasing our margins.
Ratings go down the toilet if I'm not here.
All I do is simply put the math in my favor.
We agree that Brandon and John do good work.
The reason is simple wrestling economics.
I've been told the Netflix numbers. I've been told the metrics a little bit, probably 5 different times. I still don't get it.
There were respectable wrestling journalists who needed answers.
Thank you very much, members of the media. I hope you all go to hell. How about we pop a number right here, right now?
Whole part of the show, man.
And welcome everybody to the brand new Pollock and Thurston, the prime time edition. Here we are, our new night, our new time, Thursdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Welcome, Brandon. Here we are.
Yes, I almost at the last minute I was going to do like a different design for our background or something like that, but I that was a dream.
Well, you know what? Baby steps for this big transformation. We hope you are all joining us here or listening after the fact. We are going to be getting into all of the latest news and happenings within professional wrestling. We are going to be talking about many case updates. We've got an interesting story involving Janel Grant, who will actually be speaking publicly next week. We're going to talk about the state of WrestleMania 42. How is the business of WrestleMania shaping up? But we could not start off this show without talking about ice, of course. What else could be the number one topic within professional wrestling? Ice. Anti-ice chants.
It is the topic du jour. Yes,
it is. Yes. Are you familiar with ice?
It keeps things cold in my drink. I appreciate it for that reason. I understand it has some other connotations. So some real branding issues, I would say, for the what is ice? The immigration and customs enforcement. I had to look that up today because I had to write this story. They might want to rebrand.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe some massaging to be done with their PR. I mean, there's certainly some branding issues that we can talk about there. But let's go back to last week, because you and I have not spoken since this occurred last Wednesday night when Dynamite was doing a live broadcast from Las Vegas, and the main event saw an eliminator match between MJF and Brody King. And as the match was about to begin, we got loud chants of "fuck ice" from the crowd in Las Vegas, and Bryce Remsburg, having his ear to the audience, delayed calling for the bell in order to give this chant a little bit more breathing room, which he fully noted the next day online. And this became like a pretty big story coming out of Dynamite last week. It resulted in a lot of coverage that AEW received, and this chant being very audible on television did not get censored by the network or on Triller or any of their broadcasters. And so
because of the F word.
Yes. I mean, Netflix would never have let this fly.
Yes. But the point being, it might have been censored because it had the F word in it, as opposed to censoring this disapproval of a federal agency.
Yeah, well, I'm saying there was no censoring of this.
Yes.
So, yes. So that was the story coming out of last week. And then there was the curiosity about, of course, Saturday night was a taped show from Vegas. And then Wednesday night, they're live in Ontario, California, which is very nearby Brody King's hometown. And Brody King was not on the show. There was a video package for Brody King and MJF. And then after, there was a report from Dave Meltzer that Brody King had been absent from the broadcast because WBD did not want the chants to be uttered on the air, and citing the fact that there is a potential sale of Warner Brothers Discovery, and essentially not wanting to fan the flames. This was heavily...
The FTC would have to approve. Should we read Dave's exact words?
Yeah, why don't you read the quote?
This is from Dave Meltzer this morning or early this morning. In any case, this, again, not a Tony Khan call. This is from above. You know what it is. Nobody wants to get on Trump's bad side. If it wasn't for that, nobody would care. it's just a chant, but unfortunately he's referring to WBD, got a company they're trying to sell and get regulatory approval from a guy, referring to Trump, who's going to take that stuff personal.
So today, I know you were like reaching out directly to WBD, and WBD got out an actual statement addressing this, and it reads, Warner Brothers Discovery did not have any involvement in Brody King's upcoming AEW schedule. Any speculation to the contrary is categorically false. Brody is scheduled to appear during the next AEW event, which will air this Saturday on TNT and HBO Max. And then, Brandon, you were asked, well, when they state upcoming schedule, is that some wiggle room that they are trying to use that could maybe make some of this true? And you followed up with this, and it was pretty much told to you that includes yesterday's show, emphasizing that the report is, quote, categorically false.
Yeah. The notion here seems to be that Brody King was traveling to Australia. That's why he wasn't on the show. We did also reach out to anybody else who I thought might know, who I could contact. And we did have a source with direct knowledge of this with AEW who said that Meltzer's report is not true and that WBD's statement is true.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I think that is like whatever Dave heard, I can't speak to, but it was, very soundly pushed back on here by all sides here from AEW, WBD. Brody King is scheduled for Saturday's show with MJF.
Right.
It remains
the
to be
notion
seen.
is if they were concerned about ice chants, well, they're allowing him to appear on Saturday. I suppose you could say, well, that's in Australia where maybe they're less likely to chant F ice. I don't know.
It's also worth noting this Saturday show, it will be on a tape delay by many hours as well because it's from Australia. It remains to be seen that this was obviously this was a very big story last week, and I think these chants are going to follow Brody King, and I think today's story, even when you got like the other side of it out there, I think that's just going to intensify them that much more. And when Brody King is on TV, I think these chants are going to follow. And it does remain to be seen, like what will WBD just have this attitude that these are the chants that follow this guy? Like that is an aspect to this whole thing. Like, was this a 1 week chant that the Las Vegas crowd engaged in, or is this now going to follow Brody King? And I feel like this was a pretty big story that a lot of crowds are going to pick up on this and continue these chants.
Yeah, and somebody said that they might be going to Minnesota soon. I'm just looking at their schedule to see if that's true. After they're going to California.
Is it St. Paul they're going to?
I don't see that. They're going to California, Oceanside, California, and then Denver, Colorado, and then El Paso, Texas, close to the border, Tucson, Arizona. Anyway, I don't see Minnesota. There's St. Paul, Minnesota on March 25th, so that's a little over a month away.
Okay. So, I mean, on that front, that's really all there is to say to it. Like, I don't think this was accurate that WBD were preventing Brody King from being on their program on Wednesday night, and it will remain to be seen, like, if this becomes more of a story with these ice chants that, it could follow, and what will WBD's attitude be if this becomes kind of something that is focused upon and becomes a part of the AEW programming as well.
Yeah, and I saw that there was, obviously, when this happened last week, there was NBC News picked this up as a story, the Daily Beast, TMZ. I don't know if you know of any others. I know after Dave reported what he reported this morning, I know the Daily Beast did pick that up. I can see the Asbury Park Press is at least one other non-wrestling outlet that picked that up. But I think that the fact that this was a mainstream story last week, and you could see that mainstream outlets were starting to pick this up, especially this notion that, I mean, it would be quite newsworthy if a major network, such a major media company, decided, no, we're afraid of retaliation from the administration or from federal agencies because of having this chant. that's very negative towards a federal agency, why that would be newsworthy. But as far as we know from everybody who we've asked, that was not what happened.
Yeah. I don't think that it's one where like it's a very interesting time period of like this, like these chants, and ultimately I think that this is going to encourage these chants even more so. I think the attention that they received, and I think that it is going to be something that, whether they are censored or not, I think it's going to be very hard if you wanted these chants to disappear. I think it's going to be very hard if that even is something that they care about beyond it just being a 1 week thing, or if they even look at it necessarily as this controversy that it generated.
It does this chant, and does it contrasting against Paul Levesque's direct involvement with the administration, does that help AEW? First of all, does it help AEW? And because I think it is creating a difference, right? We're certainly not seeing AEW or Tony Khan express any political opinion, right? But you do see, some of their wrestlers express opinions that are consistent with, people who have liberal political beliefs.
I mean, it's a distinction you can draw. I don't think that it's something that it's going to make a meaningful difference. Like, do I think that more people are going to flock over to AEW because of this? I don't. But I do feel it's going to be something that is. I just think it's going to be really difficult for the Brody King character himself. Like, if there is some kind of backlash toward this, and if WBD were to get squeamish about this on a weekly basis and be coveting this level of attention, like, Brody King is the guy that is going to be the fall guy in all of this. And it's sort of, that's the position that he's in, I feel, as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it draws a distinction between a company that is very tied in with the Trump administration in WWE, from Linda McMahon to Paul Levesque to the contract, and of course TKO. The AEW that is sort of looked upon as certainly more to the left of that delineation.
Yeah, I think it's partly it's WWE handing them something, right? Whereas you do have Paul Levesque involved with the administration. I know that hasn't been quite as evident from the television, except for that one clip that they played during SummerSlam, right? But I mean, certainly it's out there on social media. It's in the public that he's involved with the presidential fitness test or whatever. I mean, you could combine that with, whatever your political leanings are. You combine that with the ticket price issue, the ESPN issue. We're going to talk about WrestleMania tickets not selling as strongly as they did last year. You combine that with, WWE certainly has more legal issues than AEW does, and more, serious allegations of wrongdoing. Certainly when it comes to everything that's stemmed from Vince McMahon's exit from the company.
We're going to move on to a press release that came down on Tuesday from Janel Grant's team, or this was released on Wednesday, that Janel Grant is going to be speaking at this event next Thursday at the Legislative Office Building in Hartford, Connecticut. It is listed as survivors, advocates, legislators, and state leaders gathering at this building to call on the legislature to codify the Federal Prison Rape Elimination Act into state law and reform state non-disclosure agreement policies that have been used to silence survivors and conceal abuse. Janel Grant is among those who will be sharing their lived experiences alongside advocates, state leaders, and policymakers, urging legislative action to strengthen protections for incarcerated survivors and ensure transparency and accountability across systems. Janel Grant is even quoted in this press release, and kind of one of the principles that they are standing on is the limitations that those that have been that are survivors of sexual abuse are not able to speak about them because of these restrictive policies, such as non-disclosure agreements, which directly ties to Janel Grant. But this is the first time like she is speaking publicly about anything since this complaint was filed 2 years ago, and is happening next Thursday.
Yeah, when we got this press release, I looked up what the act is, this Prison Rape Elimination Act is, and it's exactly what it sounds like it is. It sounds like she's going to be speaking to NDAs. Of course, we know that there's this non-disclosure agreement that's at the center of her lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE. That is supposed to keep her from speaking about her time with WWE or her experiences with Vince McMahon. Notwithstanding the lawsuit, which contains numerous serious allegations of sexual misconduct in it. The impression I get from reading the law, which I did look up the bill. So this would be a state law in Connecticut. There is no bill currently that would make somebody like Janel Grant make it easier for somebody like Janel Grant, who's under an NDA, to speak about alleged wrongdoing or alleged sexual misconduct. But they're clearly pushing for that as part of this public event.
We also had a decision by Judge Sarah Russell, not the big decision, but a supplementary decision. This in regards to Janel Grant's team and their request for early discovery in her lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE. And what was the decision by Sarah Russell?
The decision is no discovery right now. So by the way, this was fully briefed for a long time. Fully briefed means the parties have filed all their filings, and now they're waiting for the judge to make the decision that the judge has to make for this process to continue. This was fully briefed for about 7 months. This issue about whether or not Janel Grant could get discovery related to the arbitration issue, because what the defendants are going to do, and what they've done before, and we've sort of had the clock reset a couple times, is the defendants they will almost certainly move to compel arbitration, because there is this arbitration clause that's in this NDA that we're just talking about. The defendants are looking to enforce that and move this out of public court and into private arbitration. And what Janel Grant was moving for was to get discovery that would purportedly speak to that issue about whether or not the defendants would get what they want. And the Judge Sarah F. Russell, after 7 months, decided no, but you can move for it again. So what the judge is saying is we're going to wait for the defendants to file their motions to compel arbitration. And then at that point, you can make an argument for why you should have discovery at that point. So hopefully it won't take the judge 7 months to make a decision at that point. But the judge basically wants them to litigate about why, I guess, discovery is important. And there is going to be a hearing about this at which the sides will, I imagine, a teleconference, be able to plead their case directly to the judge.
And of course, still to be decided, of course, is the venue of which this would be, where it would be heard under, if this is going to be under arbitration or not. And that ultimately is going to be the major decision that Judge Russell makes.
Right. So what's probably going to happen is she will be allowed to move for discovery again. The judge will then make a decision about that. And then at some time after that, then the judge will make a decision about whether or not arbitration happens. I mean, this case could, even notwithstanding, even in a scenario where this does end up going to arbitration, this case is probably going to be around for still a long time to come, and then even longer if it does not go to arbitration, as far as our ability to observe it. Yes.
Okay, so this could be a long wait for this case to continue onward. We will get back to some other legal cases, but we're going to talk about WrestleMania 42. How are things shaping up in WWE as it prepares for its return to Allegiant Stadium for 2 nights of WrestleMania? There's been a lot of discussion over the past week about the promotion of this event, where ticket sales are, especially in relation to this exact same period last week. It's not often that we can have a direct market-to-market comparison for a WrestleMania year over year. But for those curious, the latest numbers, this coming from WrestleTix, is that we have 37,799 tickets out for night 1. which is down 14% from the same period last year, and 37,654 on night 2, which is 16% below where they were last year. Now, this year, prices are higher than last year, so it's not as though it's completely unexplainable, but a combination of factors. We had Fightful reporting earlier this week that establishments within a 50-mile radius of Allegiant Stadium are not going to be able to broadcast WrestleMania. I did reach out to Johan Promotions about this, and I did get a response.
I did also, but I didn't get a comment. This is something that I heard about, I think, a couple of weeks ago that I tried to confirm, including with Johan Promotions. This notion that there's going to be a 50-mile radius around Allegiant Stadium, so that bars and places like that, public establishments can't play the pay-per-view, the PLE. I understand.
Basically, it's like a local blackout, minus like homes, obviously, but in commercial establishments, because they want these people that want to watch this event in a group setting, they want them to buy tickets.
And I was told this might have been the case for SummerSlam in New Jersey also, so that 50 miles around MetLife Stadium, they weren't allowed to play it. I don't know if that would be that was probably not as big of a deal for SummerSlam in East Rutherford versus WrestleMania, where everybody's in town, but maybe not necessarily going to the event, and probably just a lot more bars and places like that would want to show it in Las Vegas.
So then we also had this report from WrestleVotes Radio on Fightful that reported that WWE held a multi-department company meeting on February the 11th, so this would have been on Wednesday, to address lower than expected ticket sales for WrestleMania. All departments have been tasked with promotions and strategies to boost ticket sales and momentum heading into the event. WrestleVotes also heard that WWE plans to keep ticket pricing as is for the time being. So certainly this is... Like, you just look at year over year, and this is not at the level last year's event was. There's several factors for that. I mean, as we mentioned, ticket prices are higher. You don't have a John Cena this year, for instance, for his last WrestleMania. It's the same market once again. And honestly, it's like we probably won't know until afterwards, like what it is that they're getting from Las Vegas. But last year, as you reported, Brandon, they got a $5 million site fee and then another $4.2 million in tax credits. I would think that they had a lot of leverage to command even more, given that they were pulling out of New Orleans to bring this event back to Las Vegas. And like the expectations you would think are to at least equal, if not surpass what they did last year, that they saw WrestleMania as such a important event that they went after WWE, even though they had a site for 2026 locked in and publicly announced.
Yeah, I made a records request to the LVCVA, which is the tourism organization, back in April. Still waiting to get any records in response to that. That's how we found out last year that there was a $5 million site fee for WrestleMania. They are being sued in Nevada court, so hopefully we'll get some resolution to that. That is also an issue that has been fully briefed for quite some time. So, yeah, what do you think the reason is for this? I mean, it's only $250 for a ticket for WrestleMania Saturday, so it's in that neighborhood.
Those are the worst seats, by the way.
Yes,
so that's like way
Section 333
up there. No, I think it's a combination of factors. I mean, in writing about this week, like the LVCVA also put out this report just a week or two ago about just how much tourism is down this year how low it was had fallen in 2025, and they were down 7.4%, which includes a 24% decrease among Canadians going to Las Vegas last year. And they specifically note attracting big events such as WrestleMania to try and curb this. So
this is Canadians' fault.
Blame Canada, of course. You want to take over our country as your next state, and guess what? We're a little averse to traveling. You had also had this in your report, the fact that the first night of WrestleMania last year, 81% of attendees were from out of town, 84% on the second night. So that tells you the tourism boom that this acquired last year for WrestleMania. And I just look at this as a combination of factors. And honestly, like the card construction and makeup to me would be low down the list of what are.
But you got to do something, I think.
That's
the internal.
That's
feeling.
it. But
have you ever gone on vacation to the same location 2 years in a row?
No, I have not. And I could see a lot of people that Las Vegas is not the cheapest place to go for, especially a second year in a row. There are some that will do it. You would think that this year, I thought it would be somewhat offset by the fact that people know they're probably not going to Mania next year in Saudi Arabia. So this will be your last chance to do a Mania for at least 2 years. But, it's not like this is a disastrous show when we're talking about this many tickets that are out. You have 9 weeks to go, but it's down from last year. And that's ultimately how they are comparing this of why are we not at the level we were last year? And we have to reach this benchmark, and we're behind 14 and 16% on both nights.
Yeah. I think it has, one factor is probably that this boom that W has been experiencing for a few years is leveling off. Ever since last year's WrestleMania, I think that was kind of at least in terms of sentiment for what online sentiment is worth and what sort of hardcore fan sentiment is worth. That was a turning point with people feeling dissatisfied or more loud about their feelings about not being as happy with the WWE TV product. There's that. And I think, you're going back to the same location. I think for a lot of fans, right, this is a vacation, and a lot of fans go in some years or whatever. And if they went last year, I think there's just less urgency to, well, I've already been to Las Vegas. I've already seen what that city is like. And I'm sure there's a lot of things to do in Las Vegas. But once you go once, it's not the same as going to some other city. And the ticket prices are higher than ever. Mark Shapiro wants them to be even higher. A lot of work to do there. But yeah, it's probably all those things. And I really doubt it's got much to do with the matches, which is kind of an upside down way to look at the business. But I think that's the reality of it, where the wrestling business at this level does not, ebb and flow immediately with what's the main event. What is official for WrestleMania at the moment? It looks like we strongly expect Punk versus Reigns.
I mean, they flat out announced that, but it's everything else that seems to be like, I know like there were matches that were at least penciled in that would seem that like everything has a potential of change at this point. Nothing is. I think like that is one of the focuses is the match construction. But let's remember when we're comparing this to a year ago, at this point last year, they hadn't even done the Cena turn yet at that time. Like it's not as though you necessarily had all of this line. Like all you knew was basically it's Cena's last WrestleMania. Maybe you had a thought like maybe The Rock will do something, which I don't think anyone is expecting this year. But again, like I don't look at those. I think this is less a reflection of the product or creative or match programs that they are building toward. I think there's a lot of like outside factors that you can attribute to this being where it's at. And I think it's going to be heard even a bit more from people that are traveling that might have planned, hey, I'm going to splurge and go to one night of WrestleMania, and I'm going to go to a bar for the other night of WrestleMania. And that's going to be a lot harder for people if that's not an option now, if none of these places can even carry Mania. Do you want to be a traveler that's going to Vegas and you're going to spend a night in your hotel room watching this on a laptop? It doesn't sound like the most appealing vacation when you're spending all this money to travel across the world for this event. So there's going to be a lot of, I think, people that are just...
And if you don't have the right cable provider, you might have to pay $30 to
imagine you get all the way over there and you realize you've got YouTube TV. And
what cable provider does your hotel have? That's the question.
Yeah, that's a great question as well.
Is Las Vegas covered by Comcast? That could be an issue. I sent you, and I think international travel too, right? I think just for some reason, people outside the United States have been less excited to travel to the United States this year.
Why?
For some reason, because they're nasty, they're very nasty people, and they don't have enough respect for this country.
There's that aspect too. You travel to the U.S., you want to make sure that you'll be welcomed or not have your passport seized or anything else that could go wrong. So there's that factor.
I sent you this article of a few months ago, right? This article from Slate. This is not a reason, but I just want to point this out. This long article from Slate that was published back in November. It goes through. I don't know, it's written by this guy who's like been to Las Vegas a bunch of times, and he talks about how Las Vegas is kind of there's a lot of scamming, kind of. They're really gouging people for stuff. And for one example, he points to this 000 roulette. So it's basically the concept is this, how do casinos make money on roulette? If you just bet on red every time, you win 50% of the time, the casino loses 50% of the time and wins 50% of the time. So how do they make money? They put a 0 on there that is neither red nor black. And so that, you've got 51% of the time the casino is winning or something like that. Well, there's some casinos who do what's called 000 roulette. So they have a 0 and a 00. But now lately, there's been some casinos that are doing 000. So just little things like this too that are irritating the Las Vegas tourists.
Well, all these things add up. But you know who denies that Vegas tourism is down? Dana White. He says, I go to places and it's packed. I don't know what people are talking about. His anecdotal evidence goes against all these stats and studies.
Yeah, well, you can't trust data.
We'll see if Dana goes to. We'll see if he takes in another WrestleMania. Remember last year he got booed when they showed him on screen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, not a wrestling fan anyway. Yeah,
probably not. All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna tackle some cases. So this is clarify this for me. This complaint has been filed by Anthem Wrestling Entertainment concerning Gail Kim. Is it accurate to say they are suing Gail Kim or that they are seeking a court order in response? They are trying to preemptively stop Gail Kim from filing a complaint against them.
The word sue is funny, right?
Yes.
I have a couple petitions filed in court. Am I suing people? I guess. But I'm not seeking monetary damages, right? And neither, other than court costs, neither is Anthem. So they're not suing Gail Kim to recover some money other than their attorney's fees.
Attorney's fees and any further relief the court deems just and proper. So
well, you always put that in there.
So minimal. This is not so much looking for damages. This is ultimately trying to classify Gail Kim as an independent contractor and make sure that if anything happens, this would be seen under Tennessee law and not Florida law. But we should go back and explain what all of this is. So Gail Kim was with the company for several years. She was on a personal booking agreement and services agreement with Anthem Wrestling Entertainment, which is, of course, the parent company of TNA. And at the end of 2024, her agreement ended and they agreed to go on a month-by-month relationship. In March of 2025, TNA ended that agreement where she had been working in talent relations and production. And they have kind of like how the business arrangement was, where Kim was, she wrestled a match during this period. She was largely working behind the scenes. And if she brought new business to Anthem, there was a commission basis that she would receive some of the net fees of business she brought to the company.
You have any idea what that would mean? Sponsors or something like that?
That's what I took it to be. I like whether it was like just opening up new business for Anthem that she was out there bringing in. I would assume like maybe sponsorships of some sort. They didn't really get specific here, but it states here in the complaint that Kim has recently informed Anthem that she believes she holds legal claims against Anthem for violations of the Florida Private Whistleblower Act. Kim has taken the position that she may bring Florida state law claims against Anthem, which they aver to Tennessee state law, which governs all disputes between the parties. Moreover, the Florida Private Whistleblower Act, the Florida Civil Rights Act, and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 do not apply to independent contractors. Because Kim was an independent contractor, she has no legally cognizable claims against Anthem for violations of those statutes, and they want the court to declare all of this to be governed under Tennessee law. They want it made clear that Kim was an independent contractor and therefore to be compensated for their attorney fees and court costs.
So this is consistent with, we don't know what Gail Kim's side of the story is here. She hasn't
we don't know
commented on
what specific claims she has brought to Anthem, only what they have listed here about what acts it would fall under. If this is based off of, like, we don't know what exactly Kim is alleging.
Okay, but I think it's important to note. So this story was originally broken, not by us, by PW Insider, noting the Florida Whistleblower Act. So the Florida Whistleblower Act is basically it's a law that many states have similar legislation that's supposed to prevent your employer from firing you out of retaliation for raising some sort of wrongdoing, right? And this is consistent with, maybe she has sent them some sort of legal demand letter that references that law. And what they're doing is saying, no, you can't sue us in Florida because your contract says that any legal disputes between us have to be handled in Tennessee court. So that's what they're raising. We've seen other issues like this where, these
AEW suits that we
right, the arbitration issue where contracts, especially talent contracts, tend to have this. You have to deal with any legal matters in this way or in this jurisdiction. Okay, but I think what's really important here that was not reported elsewhere is that this complaint from AWE, Anthem Wrestling Exhibitions itself, mentions Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. That she's claiming, mentions the Florida Civil Rights Act. So not just the Whistleblower Act. And what Title VII this is the Federal Civil Rights Act. Title VII, this is what it says, prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and origin. The Florida Act says similar. The general purposes of the act are to secure all individuals within the state freedom from discrimination based because of race, color, religion, sex, pregnancy, and it goes on to cover more things. So again, we don't know what her claims might be, but the civil rights issue, it suggests that she believes that she was discriminated against based on some identifying factor.
I think that's the only way you can conclude. What the specifics are, we don't know, but I think you can just take what is cited here as a clear indication of what the general vicinity of what she is arguing over.
And so the legal issue here will be, okay, those civil rights acts and the Whistleblower Act, those not only do you belong in this jurisdiction and not Florida, but they're also saying, and this is true of these acts, these laws apply to employees, but not to independent contractors. She was contracted here. She would have to argue in all likelihood that she was misclassified and should have been considered an employee and not an independent contractor. So it's a recurring theme in wrestling that now she had an office job, right? She was involved in talent relations, producing matches, occasionally as a performer, and they have her on a booking contract as an independent contractor. And I understand that's, she's not the only person who would have essentially an office job or a staff job, but was still nonetheless not an employee, but was continued to be classified as a contractor. And they go into some detail about why she should be considered a contractor. They gave her 1099s, which is what you give a contractor. And she had, she worked from home often, and she was able to have enough free time to be a contestant on The Amazing Race Canada and on The Traders Canada, which is another reality show. So they're making the case.
Us Canadians, we just take all of your ideas and we put Canada at the end of them.
So that's what you do. We should charge you for that. That and the Gordie Howe bridge. We want money for that. So it's making the case that she's an independent contractor. She's in the wrong. She wants to sue us in the wrong jurisdiction to preclude any claims that she might be able to bring.
Let's move on to a brief update in the Ring Boy lawsuit. Last week we talked about how Vince and Linda McMahon, they had filed motions pushing essentially for the John Does to have their names publicized, and we got a response earlier this week that reads that defendants Vince and Linda McMahon have known the identities of the plaintiffs for months, yet they wish to force the plaintiffs, victims of child sex abuse, to reveal their identities to the extensive and passionate wrestling community, the media, and the public as a whole. But that would risk re-traumatization of plaintiffs, along with the risk of harm to innocent third parties like plaintiffs' families, friends, and employers, who mostly do not know about plaintiffs' abuse or participation in this case. Weighing all of the James factors, which are arguments that the McMahons used in their motions. Basically, they're concluding that the court
it's basically the legal test that decides whether or not you should be allowed to proceed anonymously, and all the parties are concerning themselves with that test.
Yeah, it's basically like 5 factors that it is what the James factors consist of. They argue that the court should reject the McMahons' transparent attempt to intimidate and shame survivors of childhood sexual abuse by forcing them to publicly reveal their identities, and is requesting that the court grant their motion and continue to proceed under the pseudonyms and omit home addresses and address the parties to submit an agreed protective order governing the use of identifying information in discovery and the balance of this case. So not a surprise that they are pushing back against this to preserve that at least public anonymity, as we have consistently noted and is written in the conclusion here. This is not a case of the McMahons not knowing their identities. They know the identities, and as we went through last week, we went through the arguments that Vince and Linda have made that, I mean, there is, if you're looking at this from the judge's perspective, like, you have to weigh both of this and what is fair for each side here. And I don't know what the judge will ultimately decide here.
WWE/TKO has taken no position. They are a defendant in this lawsuit also. Only the McMahons have pushed back against this at this point. The McMahons case includes the assertion that they will not be able to find witnesses who, if these ring boys' names were public, there might be witnesses somewhere in the public who might say, well, I interacted with that person at that relevant time period. I have something that is relevant, to the defense's case to help them as opposed to the plaintiffs. So this was a reply. This was expected. And now, usually after the reply, the issue is fully briefed and the judge will rule on it whenever he wants to.
It can take a long time to make decisions on all of these. You have a couple of updates. Let's start with the ongoing WWE shareholder case. What is going on in Delaware?
So in the shareholder case, this is not the only shareholder case that is enveloping one Ari Emanuel, but there's also a consolidated shareholder case against Endeavor. I believe it's related to Endeavor's take private action. Remember, Endeavor used to be a publicly traded company, and they decided to spin out UFC, create TKO, and then take the rest of the company private. So they're being sued in Delaware Chancery Court over that. Like I've said before, when you have these big take private actions or merger actions, it's very often that the shareholders get together and say, we didn't get enough. We didn't get, you should have done a better job. And we're going to raise all these allegations about why that happened in any case. So one of these parties that's involved in that consolidated shareholder action against Endeavor has filed a notice of challenge to to challenge the redaction and to challenge the sealing of certain filings in the WWE shareholder case. Presumably there would be relevant information in this case for their case. And what's going on with TKO might be relevant to what's going on in that shareholder case involving Endeavor. So as people may remember, I filed a notice of challenge back in early December. And of course, you can only challenge items that are actually on the docket at that time. So this party is challenging, I should probably tell you what the name of the party is, but this party is challenging items that have been filed after my challenge. So we'll see what happens there, if there are any oppositions and so forth. This is, I'm not going to know how to pronounce this, but Troluce Special Opportunities 2 LP is, I think, how you say that.
Okay, not familiar.
Well, these shareholder actions always have lots of financial institutions and things like that are involved in this. So we might end up getting information disclosed because of this notice of challenge. My notice of challenge was opposed by KKR. We're waiting for Judge J. Travis Laster, Vice Chancellor J. Travis Laster, to make a decision on that. But we did get a lot of information disclosed already, which is what I reported on in late December regarding Mark Shapiro's texting of fellow Endeavor executives saying Vince McMahon is going to come back in 9 months or so on the day that he retired, and all that we've covered in the past.
Maybe he's a psychic. Have we ruled that out?
He is a very talented executive.
So, I mean, that would be my defense. You listed this other case under the headline minor. I think this is a major update, folks. We are now going to get from the man himself the update on Thurston v. Events DC. Any relation?
Yes. So John Cena's retirement match in Washington, D.C., correct? We believe, this was a presentation, of that was in conjunction with an organization called Events DC. So it's quite possible that W got a site fee to have John Cena's retirement match in DC. I imagine they shopped this around. This is a big event, John Cena's retirement. So I did make a request. I think we've talked about this before. I did make a records request to this organization, and they're disputing that they're subject to Washington, D.C.'s FOIA law. Remember, as everyone is studying, I'm sure, different states, and in this case, I don't know what you want to call Washington, D.C. a district, different jurisdictions have different freedom of information laws or public records laws. DC has its own FOIA law. This Events DC, which its full name is Washington Convention and Sports Authority, Events DC, they say that they're not subject to the records law. I did file an appeal at the time. I said that they are subject to it. The mayor's office of legal counsel did order them to do a few things in response to me, but then said, actually, no, they don't have to produce any records. So anyway, I'm actually not filing this lawsuit pro se. There is an actual lawyer who reached out to me and who does a lot of FOIA litigation. So I'm not paying this lawyer, but the lawyer will get his attorney's fees recovered if he prevails in my case. So that's what's happening there, and hopefully we'll learn some more information about how government money was spent in regards to John Cena's retirement match.
You think John got a cut of that site fee?
I think he got paid well for his.
He was compensated handsomely. He's going to be okay.
I hope so.
Well, let's take a look before we wrap up things about the latest TV and streaming numbers. Are you aware that pro wrestling is back? We're back into a boom period.
Everything's great now. Everything's good again.
Everything's fixed.
The ratings are up.
Yeah, the Dash study has done wonders for professional wrestling. Although we'll start off with last week's Raw, which does not apply to television viewing, but rather on Netflix. The show did really well. It did 3.1 million views. It
post-Rumble.
Post-Rumble, yes. That is important to note. It was 6th on the global top 10 and 5th in the U.S., 6th in Canada, and ranked among the top 10 in 16 countries. And this was a big week, Brandon, because both Raw and SmackDown were among the top 3 most watched programs for the week in Bolivia. It was a week of Bridgerton, right. Raw, and SmackDown. That was the top 3 in Bolivia. A huge showing.
They should do WrestleMania in Bolivia. Why not?
There are plenty of faces that require smiles in Bolivia, and I think that this top 10 chart, it's putting smiles on executives' faces.
What's the biggest city in Bolivia? Can we even name a city in Bolivia?
Listen, that was never taught to us in Canadian schools.
Santa Cruz, I'm being told by Google, is the largest city in Bolivia.
Okay, well, you know what? In a country of 12.4 million people, I am sure they could find a suitable venue for such an event if they want to go to Bolivia. You could do a nice South American tour.
Yeah, I'm afraid Mark might have trouble charging the ticket prices that he sees fit for WrestleMania. However,
yeah, that might be a tough squeeze for him.
Might need a sizable site fee though. That could offset that.
So we also saw over the last week, Dynamite from a week ago doing 654,000 viewers and a 0.15. It got a big boost, in particular in the 18 to 49 demo, which was up, well up from the previous week. Impact, which is just defying logic, did their highest number to date on AMC last Thursday night with 241,000 viewers. That was a 20% uptick from week 3 and a 0.05 in the demo. So Impact has just steadily grown, and it's the tape shows that are doing the best numbers for Impact in these first 4 weeks on AMC.
Another big victory for Moose here, proving the haters wrong again. So we should mention, right, since since January, I think it's the 26th is when this adjustment that Nielsen made to at least its cable methodology, the 26th Monday, because they have a Monday through Sunday week, I believe, in TV land. Basically everybody is up, right? If we look at my line chart, I'm going to have to draw a new vertical line on this line chart to signify where the change was. I bet you can guess where it was just by looking at SmackDown's numbers here with the big jump back up over 1 million viewers consistently again. And Dynamite has really jumped back up too. As I've shown you, and I was working on it today, I hope to have it out soon enough. We do have some panel only viewership over time. I don't have a complete data set of every single week, where there are some weeks missing in the data that I have. But it's you would think that, okay, Neil, big data plus panel happened, wrestling ratings went down generally. So then Nielsen decided, reportedly, according to Variety, made a change to their methodology. Everybody's ratings are back up. They must just be coming back. And remember, I reported that I've got the same episodes back in November, and here they are side by side, panel only versus big data, and panel only is still higher. So you think this adjustment would bring it back up to the level of panel only? No. The panel only numbers are I think, generally larger as well, but I'll have a more complete report about that in the days or maybe the week or so to come.
Yeah, basically, if we were still of the old methodology of panel only, these numbers would be even higher, which is it's crazy.
I don't know if the methodology changes they've made is affecting panel only as well.
I see. Right. That's
a possibility that I can't rule out, and I don't think Nielsen's going to tell me.
SmackDown was first on cable last Friday night, 1,459,000 viewers and a 0.35 in the demo. These were their best figures since September, so more of a lift there. It did rank in 2 countries worldwide on Netflix. Do you want to guess what those 2 countries were, Brandon?
Bolivia and Canada.
Correct on both fronts, yes. Number 3 in Bolivia, number 8 in Canada. And then Collision, which was the tape show from Las Vegas, 388,000 viewers and a 0.07. So it was down 21%, but that's from the week before that did that outrageous number, the day of the Royal Rumble. That was like their highest in over a year. So this was still their second biggest audience in their regular time slot since August. So this was still a very good number by Collision standards. And, and doing 95,000 viewers in the demo as well for Saturday. So all things considered, it seems that Collision, at least these 2 weeks, it has recovered a lot from where it was falling to just precipitous levels.
And the demos are up too, right? And this matters because this is the currency. Nielsen is the currency, right? This is no matter what the numbers are, no matter whether you believe them or not, well, there really isn't a strong alternative at this point in terms of what advertisers are buying ads against. They're buying ads against these demos. So for the sake of thinking about that, we should focus on the demos, which are the things that are driving the ad sales. And those are back up, and that's good for wrestling. Again, regardless of what you believe is the real state of actual popularity and actual viewership, the demos are back up, and that means these wrestling programs are making more money for their networks.
And the last one that has just come in was last night's NXT that did 637,000 viewers. That's up 1% from last week, but they jumped from a 0.08 to a 0.12 in the demo. I believe this is their best 18 to 49 audience since October. So again, all of these are kind of following this trend line across
right.
all companies.
And supposedly, reportedly, according to Variety, the change of the methodology that happened in late January was only to apply to cable.
So NXT
CW is not cable.
Yeah, that's a bizarre one, but it's absolutely benefited from whatever this artificial lift has.
That is the highest 1849 since October 14th.
Okay, so it is. I don't know. It's a wild time when it comes to television viewership monitoring and what is being incorporated and what you can take from this, but. You should do a follow-up. Let's see if CW gives you a statement about the Dash study and if they have a lot more, if it applies to them, maybe that would be something to ask them. I think they'll be a lot more welcoming to this survey than they were Big Data Plus panel.
Yeah, I mean, the point is we're kind of back in a place where, where we had that October, November, December, most of January, where there's this crater in the chart, and we're sort of back to where things were.
All right. We do have some super chats, but before we get to those, let's just quickly take a look at Brandon's every month on the Wrestlenomics Patreon. You go through the live events market to market comparisons. For AEW, you had several examples here of 3, 6, 7 different markets that they ran compared to last time in these. So I would say the notable ones, we saw Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they ran the January 7th, 2026. This was a Dynamite. So they were up, or down rather, 10% from the last time that they ran in Tulsa. We also had 11% jump in Phoenix for the January 14th show compared to the last time they ran, which was February of last year. I guess the big one here was a drop for Orlando, which this was for a Dynamite compared to the World's End pay-per-view in 2023. They were down 28% this time around. The rest are, kind of hit and miss. We had the Arlington residency, of course, in January as well. So those were some comparisons as well.
So one of the reasons why I look at this every month is you can tell a story then over time of how is the data trending. And maybe this tells us something about popularity, right? And so I do these market comparisons to say, here's the same event type in the same city, usually the same arena. Was it up or down? And what we're seeing is, so far in Q1, now this is 1 month of Q1, we got 4 positive comparisons versus 3 negative comparisons. And that is a positive story by a slight edge, which is more than we can say for any of these quarters that I've got on the screen here, which go back to 2023, the beginning of 2023. So if you want to tell yourself a story that AEW is the decline anyway, is flattening out, that is consistent with this. We got, it's down 1%. You could call that virtually flat. And if you look at the averages for Dynamite and Collision being defined as tapings that are Collision and not Dynamite, Collision is down quite a bit in Q1, but Dynamite is up slightly. So you're seeing things sort of stabilize. This is especially based on the last couple of years. This is a positive development for AEW's attendance.
And then for WWE, you have a bunch here of comparison points, both in the U.S. and on the UK tour, European tour, where they were all over the place in January. We saw, I guess, some major ones here. I mean, we had a comparison point for, Bridgeport, Connecticut. We're looking at TV versus a house show. They had, that's been a long time since they were in Bridgeport. 2022.
No, it's house show. It's house show to house show. I don't do that. It's house show to house show. Okay. But it is a holiday house show versus a July 2022 house show.
Okay, so July 23rd, 2022, that was the weekend that Vince McMahon stepped down.
The very next day, in fact.
It was.
Mark Shapiro had already sent a text message by that point saying he'll be back.
That's right. He saw the house show numbers. He was like, oh, man.
He didn't even have to wait for that. No.
Yes.
But this was a holiday period house show on January 4th, which was up strongly compared to a summer 2022 house show right early in the return from no it's not, because that was 2021. Anyway, you get my point.
So in November of 2024, if I'm not mistaken, you attended SmackDown in Buffalo, and were you representative of the trend line here? Because when Buffalo brought to you guys not just a SmackDown, but it brought you guys the first 3-hour SmackDown this year, and 30% less showed up. So maybe, Brandon, you were indicative of your fellow citizens.
Yeah, so SmackDown was considerably down. We're talking about attendance being down. This is the number of tickets distributed, estimated by WrestleTix. But maybe the revenues are still up. We certainly had Fightful reporting in this holiday tour that despite some of the attendance being down, record gates were being set. So I wouldn't be surprised if the gate was up despite attendance. Well, WrestleTix estimate of attendance being down 30%.
Yeah. I mean, you have to look at some of these, Brandon, and assume that, like, yeah, we don't know exactly, like, what the gates are for these. Like, you would think, like, some of these markets, like Montreal being down as much as it was for a SmackDown. That was the first of 2 nights at Montreal, but regardless, like, Montreal is a big market. London, Berlin, Germany, places that are not getting TV in any kind of regularity. I mean, that to me would speak as much to, like, if you're going to look at places that I think are going to offshoot any maybe slight popularity decline, I think that it would be more reflective of people being priced out of these.
And keeping in mind that we don't know exactly what the ticket prices are, other than they're higher. We do have a negative edge here in the month for WWE, with 7 negative stories, 5 positive stories, and we're looking at our second consecutive quarter where the difference is almost flat, slightly down. It was down 2%.
Yeah, there were some big ones here. Like Brooklyn was up 18%. That was that big Stranger Things edition of Raw that they promoted very heavily. Glasgow for a house show that did over 11,600. So that was the highs and lows of WWE for the month of January.
And Raw is finally flattening out after we've seen, if you're watching a video, you can see where in every quarter until this one, now it's only through January, but in every quarter until this one, it has still been up. Despite the ticket price increases that have been happening for the last several quarters, at least, right? And SmackDown is flat. So in terms of their TV, I mean, we're still talking about a Raw that's doing, on average in that month of January, 11,700, which is, I mean, compare that to think about how the business was doing in 2022. I mean, that's a big difference. So this is still a WWE in terms of, how many people are in the building, despite paying ticket prices that are, I mean, I've reported double or more. This is still these are still WWE arenas that have a lot more people in them than the late Vince McMahon period.
A unified platform, more personalization, more customization.
That's right. Got to redo that WrestleMania card, though, Paul. Come on.
All right, we have a few super chats here. Okay, we'll see what we can answer here. Do you think that Bushiroad, thank you for the super chat here. Do you think that Bushiroad will step up investment in New Japan and Stardom? I've never seen someone apologize because someone, referring to Yota Tsuji, used card game negatively. Brandon, you might not be...
I've heard a little bit about this, yes.
Yeah, Yota Tsuji gave a speech at the end of his title defense against Jake Lee at the New Beginning show Wednesday and gave a plea that we are human beings, damn it. We are not playing cards. And I guess Hiroki Goto took issue with this of you don't let the people leave feeling guilty or you want to put a smile on their face as they leave the arena. Don't. I'm paraphrasing here.
Hiroki Goto?
Goto spoke about this publicly. Yes,
and then Kadani tweeted about this. I thought Kadani said we apologize.
Oh, okay. I missed whatever Kadani said. I only saw Goto's tweet about this. That was kind of coming down on Tsuji for this. But yes, maybe Kadani.
Yes,
this was hardly the most controversial of statements that Yota Tsuji made, but can't upset the card makers.
We'll put it on the screen. This was the comment from Takaki Kadani, who is the CEO of...
To all card game enthusiasts.
I mean, this is auto-translated by Grok. This is auto-translated by Grok from Japanese to English.
Oh my God. This is like
Okay, go ahead.
During today's New Japan Pro Wrestling event in Osaka, a wrestler used the phrase card game as an unfavorable comparison. Some of you may have felt uncomfortable or offended by this. We sincerely apologize. We kindly ask for your continued support of Bushiroad TCG. I mean, this is just, my God. I mean, I get way more. I was way more offended that they beat Aaron Wolf in 2 minutes than I did for this speech. I mean, Yota Tsuji was speaking on behalf of the pro wrestlers. Like we're not just like he's saying like we're not just disposable pieces of cardboard here. We're real people.
Maybe there's something lost in translation here, linguistically or culturally, that we're not grasping.
All right, and our other one here is let me see here what I can pull up. We have that if Tony Khan is smart, he should come to Melbourne in 2027. Well, he's not going to Melbourne this weekend. He's going to Sydney and Brisbane, and it's 2026, and that's what's happening this weekend.
And what do we have a ticket estimate? I see 6,781 is the estimate for Sydney.
I'd call that fine. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be holding a parade.
This is number 2. This is second time they've been to the country, right? They went to, where did they go last time? They went to Brisbane, right?
Yeah, they did Brisbane last year for Grand Slam, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
other side of the country, probably. I don't know.
It's a big show that they are doing on Saturday. They've loaded this card up, and they are sticking around for a house show on Sunday when they'll go to Brisbane. But we also had the announcement on Wednesday's Dynamite that the pre-sale for all-in tickets will take place in the middle of March. They will be putting tickets on sale, which is going to be obviously like their biggest show of the year, and it's going to be a real test to see what they didn't go back to Wembley last year. They did do the show at the O2 Arena, but what they will, what the initial demand is for tickets for Wembley Stadium.
Yes. Will this be up or down from let's say from the Texas show, which was, I mean, it depends on which attendance number you want to go with here, but low 20,000 will be over that.
You're saying for first day ticket sales?
No, for the end.
Oh, they're going to do.
Will this all in London this year do better than all in Texas last year?
Yes, yeah, they'll do. Okay. They'll do comfortably above 20,000. Yeah.
Well, it's got to do quite a bit more than 20,000 to surpass all in Texas.
What was the final number for all in Texas?
You think I reported on that or something? I'm supposed to know what that is. According to Wrestlenomics, let's see. The attendance was, so they didn't reach their 32,500. So actual attendance. So this is, I think, the number of 21,973 was the count of, that was essentially the drop count. So tickets distributed estimate by WrestleTix was 27,000 though.
Yeah, I think this show will do, like, of course, this is not going to do like 2023 numbers at Wembley, but I think this show, if this is promoted really effectively, I think if you have a big story of Ospreay's return, I think this show could do like 50.
50?
Yeah, I'm saying it right now.
Wow.
Cut this clip out.
And what did, if I look at, what did Wembley number 2 do for them?
I feel it was right in the range of 50 in that general ballpark off the top of my head.
I know what the drop count was. They did, okay, according to WrestleTix, estimated distributed was 53,922, so almost 54. And I had the drop count, I believe, at 46 or 47. Something like that.
That to me is what I would be looking at, like the high end of what they would do. I think that this show will.
I mean, that's a 2x range we're talking about here, in the high 20s to 50. But you think it's going to do as well as Wembley number 2? I think it can get to that level. Yes. Okay. Maybe I'm being too. Will Ospreay is Will Ospreay going to have to get another tattoo? Oh, that's a great question. I don't think this man needs any more ink at this point. He should just be rehabilitating his neck. That's what he should be focused upon. But we will see if he gets a tattoo after this one. Well, there you go, everyone. Pollock and Thurston. We've gone prime time, going head to head with Impact. Oh yeah, we're supposed to be watching that like Nitro and Raw in the truck. We're supposed to be monitoring our competition here as part of the Thursday Night War. Counter programming and spoiling their show as it goes on, right? Yeah, well, we are going to bid everyone farewell, but you can catch all of Brandon's work over at patreon.com/Wrestlenomics. You can get all of the latest ratings reports, market-to-market comparisons, and he's writing stories at Post Wrestling as well, including a story about the whole Brody King WBD story from earlier today, which had everybody's attention. Yes. And I'm linking everybody to all those stories as well. Those just sort of like a newsletter letting you know that the story on post is up there, although it is free for everybody to read. But your support, whether you're a paid member or not, preferably paid, helps justify all that reporting too.
And you can find all of my work as well over at postwrestling.com. Wei Ting and I just put out our Ask Away mailbag show for today, going through all of your questions. 2.5 hours worth of questions. So that is up now for all members at postwrestlingcafe.com. So we're going to say goodbye to all of you. Thanks for joining us. We will be here every Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll speak with you next week.